guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
And it's time for a scoop session with our guy Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department, the Hubbard TV Fantasy Football League, and also from the Scoop Podcast, which you can find on Apple, Spotify, ScoreNorth.com. Every Tuesday and Thursday, he joins us here on Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd for a little inside information and some speculation about Minnesota sports teams. On one hand, it's a great day because the sun is shining. It's fall, crisp playoff air, and the Twins host a playoff game. On the other hand, we woke up this morning and our good friend and former colleague, Doogie, Tom Pelissero, reporting Justin Jefferson. We all kind of thought this was likely. It's now official that Justin Jefferson headed to injured reserve. He will miss at least 4 games.
Yes. Good morning, Phil. Hello, Declan. Phil, no guarantees that Justin is for sure back after these 4 games. That would be the New Orleans game mid-November. No guarantees. Wait and see. But this absolutely could be beyond a 4-week injury. Now, when Justin got hurt on Sunday, my colleague, Alec Osmus, who does excellent work as a photojournalist, he captured Justin coming off the field, giving a thumbs up to a Chiefs defender. Justin, in fact, tried to re-enter the game on Sunday, so maybe that was adrenaline, didn't realize the severity of the hamstring injury, but we're not talking a Royce Lewis-esque hamstring injury, the lowest grade. You know how they do the grades and all that? Like Royce was able to return in 10 to 14 days. I think about Cody Lindenberg, Gophers linebacker. He injured his hamstring mid-August, then misses. The idea was, hey, he'd be good to go. Second best defender for the Gophers, right? Tyler Nubin, then Cody Lindenberg of Anoka. He was ready to go to lead the linebacker corps, right? And he wasn't ready for August 31st or September 1st, whatever the day was. They opened up against Nebraska. He then was trending to playing against North Carolina September 16th, did stuff in practice that week, then had a setback. And at this point, we haven't seen Cody on the field at all. Now, Cody likely back for the Iowa game on October 21st, but that's what we're talking about. It's as tricky an injury. Now, if you want to, come back with plantar fasciitis, that's fine. I get it. That's a tricky injury as well. But I just think the hamstring is as tricky an injury, especially for a wide receiver in terms of cutting. The things a wide receiver does, the hamstring is really, really tricky. So I'm just telling you, Phil, no guarantee at this point that he'll be back on November 12th.
Dukes, with the trade deadline 3 weeks away and the Vikings in a little bit of a tailspin here, and certainly they could dig themselves out or they can find themselves even deeper into the earth. Does this Jefferson injury, compounded with more Vikings losses, does this give this team and more the organization and Kwesi a little bit more clarity on what direction this team wants to head by the time that trade deadline rolls around on Halloween?
Yeah, Declan, I don't know how it doesn't. Like Jacksonville, I can just tell you guys, I've said this going back months, Jacksonville had all sorts of interest in the offseason in Danielle Hunter. At this point, execute that trade. I can make a case that Jacksonville can make a significant run in January in the AFC. The Chiefs, watching them in person on Sunday, did not blow me away. The Buffalo Bills right now don't blow me away. Miami is good.
The Dolphins should. But
yes, but I'm just saying I can make a compelling case that Jacksonville has a legit chance to make a significant run. Well, Jacksonville had interest, all sorts of interest in Danielle Hunter in the offseason. What are they willing to offer? But I'm just telling you, keep an eye on Jacksonville, probably some others. But if you're Kwesi, you need to listen to these offers on Danielle Hunter. I'm sure they can move KJ Osborn. The second they drafted Jordan Addison, KJ Osborn wasn't coming back in 2024. So if there's a team out there, I can't find a real logical fit. Maybe Atlanta.
Kansas City.
Atlanta could use another receiver. Maybe Kansas City. Absolutely. Although I think Rice, some of those young guys more, I think they'll get better and better as the year goes on. But sure, you can make a case, absolutely, for the Kansas City Chiefs. Point is, if you want to trade KJ Osborn, depending on what you're looking for in return, would you settle for like a 5 or a 6, or do you need higher draft capital? But I think there is a trade there to be had. Ezra Cleveland. It's not like they've tried to extend him, right? Now, the offensive line, I looked at the PFF grades. The offensive line has been really, really good, especially since week 3. Like the last 3 weeks, the offensive line, rock solid. but I think you need to listen on Ezra Cleveland. Then the elephant in the room would be Kirk Cousins with the no trade clause. But if the season continues to spiral downward, I'm just telling you, like, my sense, Phil, I'm telling you, I don't sense that he's like, no way, no how. I'm married to Rosemount. We can't move like this, that. If the right opportunity presents itself, especially if the Vikings go to Kirk and say, hey, like,
it's not
we're
happening.
not re-signing you in March. Go chase a championship this year. That chasing isn't going to take place here in Minnesota. I'm just telling you, my sense is I have a hard time believing that Kirk is going to say no way, no how. I am using the power of this no trade clause. I don't want to leave Minnesota. I think he would be open-minded to the right situation is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and guys, like, this is such an interesting crossroads for the organization because everything about the ownership going back almost 2 decades, everything about, I think, Kevin O'Connell and the guys on the roster screams, keep pushing forward. These are close losses. This is not a dumpster fire franchise that's, you're not getting beat 31-3 here. This isn't the Broncos situation where your defense is historically bad. You're in these games at the end with a chance to win. So, like, on one hand, I think it's really hard for ownership all the way down to sit here and say, let's not call it a tank, but let's call it, hey, this just isn't our year. So let's lean into that so that we can collect as many great assets as possible to start making the team better and younger and more dynamic in 2024. They've never leaned into that as a franchise, right? Like, maybe you could, I'm trying to think. 2010 was a train wreck year, but they didn't start like selling off pieces. They cut Randy Moss after they brought him in a month earlier, but they've never stared at a situation like this. And in fairness, it's pretty rare that their situation is the way it is right now. It was in 2020. Will they lean into it as an organization in the next month is my biggest question.
Well, and I don't have that answer, Phil. I sure would hope so. Now, I do believe there will be some pushback from the coaching staff, specifically Kevin O'Connell, that he will champion the idea that, hey, we still have all 6 division games in front of us. The NFC is the weaker of the 2 conferences. There still is a pathway. Now, my comeback to that is, look at the Detroit schedule.
Dude, Detroit's legit.
Well, A, legit, but B, incredibly favorable schedule. You should go game by game on the Detroit Lions' remaining schedule. I think they minimum get to 11 wins. 12 wins, now that they are 4-1, is a very real possibility. So you are not winning the NFC North.
So let's do it real quick.
What
I got it in front of
are
me.
you making as a 6 or a 7 seed? Go ahead.
So they do get a couple tricky. I will say this: they have a couple tricky road games right now. So they're coming off a win against Carolina. They've won 3 straight games. By the way, they've won 3 straight games by 2 touchdowns or more. So that's something the Vikings, quite frankly, rarely do, which is win a game by more than a touchdown. The Lions have done it 3 times in a row here. You go at Tampa Bay. Probably not as good as their record says, but Tampa Bay is a tough beat. I saw Baker Mayfield is like the 3rd best quarterback in the NFL against pressure so far this year, which has been his bugaboo in his career. Then they go at Baltimore, which is going to be a really tough game. Home against the Raiders, bye week, at Chargers, home against Bears, home against Packers, at New Orleans, they're feisty, at Chicago, home against Denver, train wreck. And then you get the Vikings twice in the last 3 games, plus whatever Dallas is. I think Dallas will still be competitive on December 30th. So, yeah, that's 11 wins. They're already at 4, right?
11. They only have 1 loss through 5 games.
Yeah.
So let's say it's 12-5. They can lose 4 games. Okay, so you lose to Dallas.
Yeah.
You lose to the Chargers. You lose to Baltimore. Maybe you lose to Tampa. Point is, there's a very real pathway to 12 wins. Certainly 11, maybe as high as 13.
How many wins gets you a wild card? 10 wins, right? 10 wins gets you maybe a wild card. So the Vikings would have
depending on tiebreakers. Like, if you're the Vikings, you better beat New Orleans, for example, on November 12th, right? It may come down to some head-to-head. 9 wins could get you in, is what I'm saying. But even to get to 9 from 1-4, can you find 8 wins?
8-4, right?
You can find enough wins, but can you find 8?
Dude, 2 against the Lions, the Niners. Also, just the next 4 games, I hear a lot of chatter on like Vikings Twitter, and that like, oh, the schedule lightens up here quite a bit. Okay, let's go through the next 4 games here. And this, I'm not like saying this to dump on Vikings fans who are sad about Justin Jefferson. I'm saying this, hey, if they go on a run, okay, cool. Maybe they get back into it. If they don't, let's lean into what we're calling on Purple Daily an opportunity for roster adjustment going into 2024. So the Bears coming up here, everyone's like, the Bears are garbage, right? Vikings going to beat the Bears. First of all, it's a road game at Soldier Field, never a given. The Bears have 3 extra days to prepare for it. Their offense has come alive. And this is the first home game since Dick Butkus, legendary franchise figurehead, passed away. They're going to be fired up to win one for, their Bud Grant. I mean, I guess George Halas is their Bud Grant, but you get the point. That's not a gimme game. In fact, I think that I haven't looked at a line yet, but there's a good chance that the Bears favored in that game. Niners, we all know what that game looks like on paper. That's a Monday night game. So now it's a short week at Lambeau Field. Packers aren't great, but how many teams win the game after they played the 49ers on a short week, right? And then, Atlanta, you got Atlanta on the schedule. Atlanta's 3-2 and have the 11th best net points per play in the NFL. That's not a bad team. So I think 2-2 would actually be a great stretch here without Justin Jefferson. And what does that get you? So now you're 3-6 in the middle of November? Like, it's just the math is so hard, and I don't see how you rattle off like 5 straight wins with some tough teams and road games and no Justin Jefferson. So just, I don't know, just confront your reality here, I guess, is what I would say.
Well, sure. And if Justin isn't then back for the New Orleans game, that's very much a toss-up game. I forget the schedule thereafter. I know there's a game.
Broncos, Bears.
In November. Yeah, and you've got the Bears here. So, I mean, there are opportunities to win. It's what we've talked about for years, Phil. It seems like they're once again stuck in middle purgatory, that they'll win enough games to not secure a top 5 draft pick, but that ultimately they are not making the playoffs. So, like, if you're going to truly hit rock bottom, go ahead and trade as many of these guys as you can trade. Like, I'm positive they absolutely can trade Danielle Hunter before October 31st. Execute that trade. KJ Osborn, I would say execute that trade, right? Kirk, we can do a deeper dive on. We'll continue to do a deeper dive heading into October 31st. I'm just saying, I think right situation, he would waive his no trade. But KJ for sure, Danielle for sure. Heck, would Jordan Hicks draw any interest? Probably not. I mean, heck, do you want to have a conversation about Harrison Smith? I mean, no guarantees that Harrison is back in 2024. They have so many guys on the final year of their contracts. To me, all those guys should be on the table. But at the top of that list, Danielle Hunter, KJ Osborn.
Duke, transition to the Twins who host the Astros for games 3 and 4. What's the latest with any updates to Royce Lewis maybe getting onto the field? Joe Ryan maybe hopefully getting the ball in game 4. What's the latest at the Twins as they resume their series with the Astros on Tuesday afternoon?
I feel bad for Royce. Him, like I, needed Devontae Adams to have a good game on Monday Night Football against his former team, the Packers, for fantasy's sake. Devontae was okay, but he didn't score. So I feel bad. Yeah, I had a nice chat with Royce on Monday in the clubhouse. He's feeling good. He's looking good. I was out on the field for the Twins workout on Monday afternoon. He was there at third base like he was, the week prior, like he was in Houston before the game 1 took place with the workout that prior day. I guess that would have been, all these days are blending together, but that would have been Friday, right? So he was fielding ground balls Friday at Minute Maid Park, right? Continuing to field ground balls at third base on Monday. Rocco Baldelli telling us he is not ruling out the possibility that at some point this series or moving forward, that Royce Lewis will return to third base. Now, I don't expect it to be today. Like today for game 3, I fully expect Royce Lewis to be the DH. But the point is, Royce told me, you see it with your eyes. He looks so much better today compared to even a week ago, game 1 against Toronto, that the hamstring continues to get better and better. We know he's getting a ton of treatment, that the possibility absolutely exists that we'll see him back at third base pretty darn soon. Dusty Baker telling us on Monday afternoon that probably Justin Verlander doesn't return on 3 days rest for game 4. Phil, you might know this better than I, but has it been 2 years or 4 years? The last time Justin Verlander pitched on 3 days rest.
Oh, I don't know.
Now that he's into his 40s, it's been a long time, point is. So now you'll wonder if the Twins win game 3, if Houston has its season on the line, do they pivot? Do they say, okay, we need to roll with Verlander on 3 days rest in game 4? But at this point, as we sit here on Tuesday morning ahead of game 3, Dusty Baker laying it out there on the record, hey, probably not for Verlander going in game 4.
I would welcome that. This
series is right there, right? When you've got Sonny Gray going in game 3, if you need to get to a game 5 on Friday back in Houston, you've got Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, the expected starter for game 4. This is all setting up brilliantly for the Twins.
Twins have a huge, relatively baseball terms, huge advantage today. I think Sonny Gray is by far the best starting pitcher in this game today. And we looked this up yesterday with Christian Javier.
Don't sleep on Javier, right? I mean, I think about the 6 no-hit innings last year against the Phillies in the World Series.
Yeah, he's good.
He had a pretty darn good ALCS start.
Mm-hmm.
He's been good his last 3 starts. Now, the total body of work for this year, blah, especially coming off the success of 2022. But the point is, Christian Javier, there is some talent there. I don't know what Javier will see today, but he is capable.
He is. I think that the biggest thing, and maybe it might be the cold weather might affect this in terms of like how far fly balls travel, but Christian Javier has one of the highest fly ball rates of any starting pitcher in baseball. And the Twins lineup has one of the highest fly ball rates of a lineup and the second highest fly balls turned into home run rate. So the Twins hitters, they would love to get balls up in the zone and hit fly balls all day long. The cold weather might maybe stop some of those from going over the fence. But back to your Verlander point for a second. If the Twins win today and they take a 2-1 lead in the series, I welcome Justin Verlander, if I'm the Twins, pitching on short rest as a 40-year-old. I think there's a chance you could rough him up and just win the series right there. And then if they happen to win game 4 with Justin Verlander pitching on short rest, now they're kind of scrambling for game 5 in which you have a fully rested Pablo Lopez. So, I mean, if the Twins win game 3, they have the Astros in a really tough spot for games 4 and 5. And if I had to choose, if I'm the Twins, I would take Verlander on short rest, because I think it's your best chance to win, and then you have a huge advantage in Game 5. So
yeah, I mean, it's been years. I know it's been years since Verlander has pitched on 3 days rest. I'm not even sure in Game 1 if early in that game his stuff was incredibly sharp. Like, to me, he was hittable. He got better as the outing went on, but like, I wouldn't curl up in the fetal position if it happens to be Verlander in Game 4. Now, if it gets to a Game 5, to me, it's Framber Valdez, right? I mean, I know the Twins got to him in Game 2, but the Astros would roll with Framber Valdez for a Game 5. But with Pablo Lopez on the mound, you would still really, really like your chances. So to me, needing to win 2 more, this best of 5 is now a best of 3. The Twins now having home field advantage. And of these 3 games, best of 3, you have the possibility of Sonny Gray, then Pablo Lopez. I'd feel really, really good if I'm the Twins.
And they're most likely going to throw Joe Ryan in Game 4, right, Dukes? I mean, I know they kind of have no other option. Maybe you could make a case Kenta Maeda on short rest for like a spot start for like 3 innings, but it's got to be Joe Ryan for Game 4, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be Bailey Ober on 3 days rest. So, yeah, I mean, that would be the possibility, some sort of bullpen-esque game where Maeda goes for, a few innings, but maybe not, 5 or potentially 6. But my understanding is Joe Ryan has been told, hey, prep as if you are the Game 4 starter. Like, we plan on using you for Game 4. What is interesting is Rocco on Monday afternoon at the podium was given every opportunity to announce his Game 4 starter and said, hey, we still need to talk through some things. Now, the press conference schedule for today, it's listed at like 11:30 or noon, sometime late morning or early afternoon, a few hours before first pitch, that the Twins will have their Game 4 starter at the podium. So with that being said, I fully expect it to be Joe Ryan.
Yeah. Hey, before we get deeper into the scoop bag here, over at scorenorth.com, we have a collectibles wing that we think you might find very interesting if you're looking to deck out your man cave, looking for some awesome signed memorabilia for your office, whatever it may be. Courtesy of our friends at Universal Sports Auctions, several great items up for buy it now right now. Scorenorth.com/shop and click on collectibles. On the YouTube channel, you can see the custom signed sort of old school colors Matt Boldy jersey here. Beautiful signature across the 2 on that number 12, and all kinds of other amazing stuff. Scorenorth.com/shop, click on collectibles, and use the promo code SCORE, SKOR, at checkout for 10% off everything, the entire site wide. All right, you came on here last Thursday, Doogie, and you floated some interesting, I would say, informed speculation about Mark Lowry, Alex Rodriguez, maybe not getting to the finish line to complete the transaction to be majority owners. You got some pushback on the internet, probably via text message. So do you have any follow-up off of your bombshell speculation from last Thursday on this show?
You are correct, Phil. Got some blowback, got some feedback. Yeah, I mean, that means people are paying attention. So I appreciate the passion of all those individuals. I don't recall ever saying that the deal wouldn't get done. I passed along that unsolicited, two people that I know well, have known well, that have their fingerprints all over the NBA, heck, the Wolves as well, said, hey, just keep your tentacles up. Just keep an eye on that situation. Mm-hmm. Let me clarify a couple things. Glenn Taylor has been on the Scoop podcast, so he laid this out. So it's been out there in my presence. Apologies for not laying this out last Thursday. But what December is okay, if Mark and Alex want to make the final 20% payment, great. But really, they just need to exercise an option to make the payment. Then the money wouldn't be due until late March. That's why I've been saying this thing isn't really going to get done. If it does get to the finish line, it won't get done until way late in the season. I also made the point that, to me, this is more opinion-based, but that Mark Lowry isn't as omnipresent as he was early in this process. Mark was in Abu Dhabi, so I made a mistake not pointing that out. I should have pointed that out last Thursday. I was aware of that information, just happened to not mention it. I apologize for that. I should have mentioned, hey, he was with the team in Abu Dhabi for whatever that is.
I thought you did mention that last Thursday. I think you did say that last Thursday.
I don't think I did. I put it out
there. We said he wasn't at Media Day.
Media. Okay. He wasn't at Media Day. At least, I was there for 4 or 5 hours, walked all around. I did not see him at Media Day. But he was in Abu Dhabi for whatever that is worth. Let me add, Mark Lowry knows a ton of people. He's already brought investors on board. If need be, I can imagine he can find more investors, right? He's raised all sorts of money for all sorts of different projects. So he's fully capable of finding more investors. I'm just saying, to me, we'll continue to keep an eye on it until they either exercise that option in December or complete the last 20% payment. It is a sweetheart price. We pointed that out on Thursday, Phil. It is a sweetheart price. They know they need to find a way to wrap this deal up. That if it doesn't happen now, it'll never happen for those guys because the price of these franchises continues to skyrocket. So the fact they got in at 155 or 159, 16 billion, sweetheart deal to buy the Wolves and Lynx. Also, for the sustainability, for the viability of this franchise for the next decade, 2 decades, 2 decades plus, we all want this deal to wrap up. It's not like I'm rooting against this deal happening. I think Mark and Alex repairing the relationship with Kevin Garnett, some other things, being forward thinkers, it would be very, very good for the sustainability of this franchise if this thing does get to the finish line. But when two people I trust that I've known for many, many years that have given me a lot of rock solid information text me 24 hours apart, now maybe they're talking to the same person. Maybe that's where I need to seek a little bit of clarity on that front. But when they both reach out to me unsolicited, right? It's not like I was seeking out information. Phone dings, right? Boom. Text message, right? 24 hours apart. Hey, you need to keep an eye on this thing. Like, there are no guarantees this thing does wrap up. I was going to verbalize that. So I did that last Thursday. But never once have I said that this deal is not going to get to the finish line.
Anything on the Jaden McDaniels front, Duke, as we get closer to the regular season? Or are they probably just going to go in and maybe get this negotiation done in the off season or at the course of the regular season at some point?
Yeah, so we're here, October 10th? The deadline is October 23rd. So 13 days to go. You look at the extension there in San Antonio. Devin, is it Vassell? Vassell? I think it's Vassell. I should know, right? After he signs a 5-year, $135 million extension with bonuses, could approach 146. Unlikely to hit 146 based on the language of those bonuses, but guaranteed $135 million. If you're Jaden McDaniels, if you're the Jaden McDaniels camp, you're looking at that and saying, okay, like we're not signing for less than that. You look at all the teams that will have cap space next summer. If he gets to restricted free agency, there's an offer sheet out there to sign that would pay him handsomely. Now the Wolves could match that offer, but they might have to do some cap gymnastics. We'll cross that bridge next summer. But point is, like, he's not taking less than what Devin signed for. So negotiations are ongoing, but the Wolves know the price of poker. When I did that social media post in July suggesting $21 to $24 million a year, I did say closer to $24 million. That was more wishful thinking on the Wolves' part. Yeah. They would have loved to wrap up an extension middle of the summer at $24 million a year. But at this point, we're talking about 28 to 29 to maybe even $30 million a year. What he can get, or at least what he believes he can get on the open market next summer with all the teams, it's going to be close to half the league will have rock solid cap space. And if you look at the 2024 free agency class, it's not real strong. So to me, if you're Jaden's representation, you would feel pretty darn good about an offer sheet being out there. Now, if the Wolves want to match the offer sheet, great. But that there's an offer sheet to sign for a ton of money next summer. So negotiations ongoing in the Wolves' ideal world. Heck, this deal would have been done already. They'll continue to negotiate with the Jaden camp, but the Wolves know how much it will cost to get a deal done by October 23rd.
Yeah. I'm excited, man. Kyle and I just did a Flagrant Howls episode yesterday in which we spent the first 20 minutes overreacting to the first two preseason games. I mean, it's easy to overreact. Karl Anthony Towns, you and I were talking at Media Day. He brought some weird energy to Media Day, but he's also just kind of he's kind of an up and down emotional guy.
Well, and considering, Phil, what maybe you and Kyle brought this up, but you consider his comments with Paul George this summer, with Pat Bev, those podcasts, right? All
he's
those
trying to keep it.
Yeah, I think he's now trying to keep it very much on the down low.
But he looked great in those first two preseason games. Mm-hmm. I thought, I think one thing I really like about this team is you're swapping out a lot of minutes from guys that were replacement level or below, like Jalen Noel, the second half of the season version of Jordan McLaughlin. There's just some guys in there. Even Taurean Prince is a good player, but Shake Milton looked phenomenal in two preseason games. Nickeil Alexander-Walker. These guys love and embrace these sort of peripheral roles on a team like this. Even Rudy Gobert had a push shot at one point in one of those preseason games. So totally overreacting to two preseason games in Abu Dhabi. But this feels like a team that I would watch out for this. The first 2 months of the season are usually a snooze fest in the NBA. They've added the in-season tournament. I feel like the Wolves are going to care more about coming out hot and showing the league, hey, we're better than we were last year. The Warriors don't give a rip about the in-season tournament. The Lakers and LeBron, the Nuggets just won the title. They don't care. They're going to try and peak in April, right? I think the Wolves might come out blazing and try and prove to the league, hey, we're going to hang a banner. It's going to be the in-season tournament banner. So I look for them to have maybe a hot start here, Doogie. Am I just being a homer?
No, you're not being a homer. I mean, that's the idea. Now, whether it comes to fruition remains to be seen. But yes, they are full steam ahead. They treated those two games against Dallas and Abu Dhabi like those were regular
season. Dude, they're like diving
games
on the floor for loose balls and stuff. It was amazing.
Because they know, okay, the goal last year at this time was top 4 seed in the Western Conference to give them the best opportunity to win at least one series to advance past the first round. That, again, whether it's stated on the record or not, is 100% the goal, that we need to be a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. If you're going to be top 4 in that bear of a conference, yeah, you better get off to a really, really good start. So that absolutely is the idea, a pathway to 45, 46, 47, 48 wins, maybe even 50, to capture a top 4 seed come April, late April, where they give themselves the best opportunity to win at least one playoff series. The ultimate goal is to win more, but certainly win at least one playoff series. Also on Cat, not to light a fuse here at the very end, but his name did come up very quietly in the summer. Like the Wolves did have casual conversations with Portland about Damian Lillard, right? Like that we know. Now it never, ever came like remotely close, but Cat's name was quietly floated out there a little bit. So I wonder if he's heard some stuff behind the scenes, if he's motivated by that Still think it's interesting to keep an eye on his situation. I never said he was going to get traded this summer, this offseason, but we'll keep an eye on how things play out. I wouldn't rule out something come next summer. Yes, It's a ton of money, right? But all it takes is one. I still think if you wanted to trade Cat, you could. So depending on how this year goes, that would be a situation I'd keep an eye on come late June, early July.
Wow. Great session here, Dukes. Thanks for jumping in. I know the schedule today is a little bit wonky for all of us because the Twins are still alive in the playoffs at the latest date, I think, since Target Field opened. But appreciate you jumping on here. Great scoop session. Can't wait for the aggregators to grab some stuff from this and throw it back in your face.
I appreciate your flexibility. Yeah, I'm doing some midday hits on Channel 5, Channel 45 here in the Twin Cities viewing area. Derek Falvey, Twins President of Operations, will join me live on the field at about 11:04 this morning.
Boom. Awesome, man. Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News sports team. We'll see you on Thursday, dudes.
Okay. See you, boys. Bye-bye.
All right. There he is. We've got Score North Twin Show running daily until the Twins are out. We've got reaction to the Justin Jefferson injured reserve move on Purple Daily today. And, Judd's in today. He's just doing his Tom Bernard hit. Our schedules are off. So that's a wrap on this scoop session. We'll see you guys on our other podcast today across Score North.